Hello everybody, this is Juli D'Ascendis and I'm continuing our video series called Listen Up, Church Finance. And today I want to just spend a little bit of time talking to you about charitable contributions, some perils and pitfalls. We all know on Sunday we take the tithe and offering. That's our standard, weekly support from the people in the pews. And that's actually very straightforward. But sometimes we find ourselves as church, either pastors or bookkeepers, in a situation where the contribution might not be something that we're used to. It's not a standard, offering plate sort of situation. So I just want to kind of give you some tips. And the first thing I want to do is, in order for the money to be a charitable contribution, it has to satisfy 6 requirements. And the first one is it has to be a gift of cash or property. It has to be claimed by the donor as a deduction in the year that it's made. It has to be unconditional and without personal benefit to the donor. In other words, they're handing you the money and then they're unconditionally giving you control over it to use in your church. And it needs to be made to or for the use of a qualified charity. So in other words, I can't give $10 to you and write it off on my tax return as a charitable contribution because you are not a qualified charity. It has to be within allowable legal limits and it has to be properly substantiated. In other words, you have to provide your donor with a receipt saying that you did receive the money or the property. So those are the 6 requirements in order for it to be a charitable contribution that the IRS would recognize. Let's talk about a couple of scenarios and a couple of things that, and we'll decide if they are or are not a bona fide contribution. The first one is the value of personal services or labor. Labor is never deductible as a charitable contribution. So let's say that you have someone in your congregation who's a landscaper and they come in and for free they cut your grass and they do your snow plowing in the winter and they provide all your landscaping services for you. Well, their labor, they cannot write off their labor on their tax return as a charitable contribution, but they can write off any expenses that they incur in providing the services. So they can write off the cost of salt that they're putting down on your sidewalks. They can write off the gas they use in the snow plow and the lawnmower. They can, if they buy mulch, anything like that, they can certainly write those off, but they can't deduct their labor. The value of rent-free building space made available to a church also cannot be claimed as a charitable contribution. So if you have a member of your congregation that is letting you use their, let's say their warehouse for your church services, they cannot take a tax deduction for the value of that space. The charitable contribution has to be claimed in the year that it's given, and a lot of issues come up at the end of the tax year where a congregant will date the check December 31st, but they won't give it to you until the first week of January. Well, there's this thing called constructive receipt. So it either has to be postmarked by December 31st if it's mailed to you, or it has to be in your hands. So really the date of the check doesn't determine what year they can take the deduction or what year you're going to give them credit for. It really depends on when you received it. And that can be evidenced either by a postmark or by, of course, them putting it in the offering plate before the end of the year. And then donors can only deduct the amount of the contribution after they subtract any personal benefit they receive. So for example, if you have a golf outing and they're going to write you a check, let's say for $1,000, well, $300 of that is the value of the golf, so they would only be able to take a deduction for $700, and that's just a quick example. Let's talk about something that happens actually pretty frequently in our local churches. We get a lot of questions on that, and that is what we call designated contributions. This is where a donor gives stipulations. If the purpose, the stipulated purpose, is an approved project or a program of the church, no problem whatsoever. It won't affect the deductibility. However, if a donor stipulates that they want their contribution to be spent on a particular individual person, then that actually is no longer a charitable contribution, but it's a gift. And again, this is a trap that a lot of our churches fall into. What you want to do is you want to encourage those donors to give a donation to the church's general benevolence fund, and they can actually make a suggestion about who might, have a financial need that they want to sow into that need. But they need to understand that if they give the money to the church's general benevolence fund, there is a chance that that particular individual will not be the one receiving their money. And just beware, because using the church's tax-exempt status to flow through what really is a gift and not a charitable contribution can actually put the church and the board in jeopardy. So you want to be very careful about those kinds of situations. And again, I would just highly recommend that you give us a call if you're in that situation, so we can maybe walk you through it. One of the things that we do encourage our local churches to do is to establish a gift acceptance policy. And this defines what you will and what you won't accept from donors. And the benefits of adopting this policy are, first of all, that it provides clarity. Second of all, it provides guidance to your bookkeeper and really to your church staff on what are acceptable gifts, the procedures that must be followed, timing considerations to be managed, the receipting policies, the handling of designations like we just talked about, valuation considerations, and disposal guidelines. For example, if somebody gives you a gift of marketable securities or stock, someone gives you some Chick-fil-A stock, and you want to have a policy. Do you hold it? Do you sell it right away? What is your policy about that? If you want to know how to write the policy, if you scroll down below the video, we're going to send you a link about some documentation that you can get about this very important policy. And again, there are other resources available to help you through some of these situations. I prepared a PowerPoint on charitable contributions. If you scroll down to the bottom of this video, you can click on the link and you can take a look at that and other resources related to this topic. So once again, I want to thank you for giving this video a look. We really appreciate everything you're doing for God's kingdom. We're so grateful to be in this ministry network together with you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. God bless. Hey everybody, thanks again for watching this video, and I hope you found the content useful. Just wanted to mention, in order for you to stay connected and up to date, there's a couple things we'd like to invite you to do. First of all, we'd like you to join our Facebook group, which is called NJMN Financial Resources. And this is going to be a group that's going to have a lot of church leaders and bookkeepers and anyone really who's asking the same kind of questions that you are. And in addition to that, we'll have experts come on the Facebook page from time to time who can actually help you find the right answers. We're going to do some live chats, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for interaction, so I strongly urge you to go ahead and join our Facebook group. Also, if you check below this video, there may be some additional resources that are linked to this video, so just go ahead and scroll down, and anything that's attached to this video, you can snag it right off here. And then lastly, we'd love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. By subscribing to this channel, you'll be kept up to date and informed about our latest posts. So again, thanks very much for your support. Thanks for watching, and God bless.